I'm at the drums, and I'd just like to, before I forget, so I don't forget at the end of this movie that this is being filmed by Miss Hougie. So if you guys want to make jokes, now is the time to do it. And Miss Hougie, say hi.
Hi.
Okay, so this is the drums, obviously. This is my drum set that I just stole, I bought, and I figured I'll tell you a little bit about the drums are made of wood on the inside, usually. Okay, most of the time wood, usually like maple, real trees. We cut down forests for this stuff for us to have a good time. And then the outside, they're coated with plastic or lacquer so that they don't get worn. These drums are, for me, they're in really good shape, and my parents bought these for me when I was a sophomore in high school. So that was like 1988, so they're like almost 10 years old. And so that's what they're made of. And then they have metal and heads and stuff, and they all have different cool sounds that keep. So, okay, I'm back. And yeah, so drum set was invented around the time when jazz got popular, which is the early 1900s. And it was invented to fill out different aspects of the music, and so that the drums could be used for different things. But the whole thing wasn't invented at once. It was parts of it. People just took separate drums and put them next to each other and said, this is what we're going to do. So it turned into this, and even more than just this. So when it started out for jazz, and the first drum, I'm going to go through each one, and then I'll play a little bit, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do. The first one is the drum that's on the floor that you play with your foot. And actually, if you want to, of the pedal.
Okay, we're going to, as the scandal, so cut.
This is the bass drum on the floor. And the reason why it's called the bass drum is because when it was invented, it was used to go along with the bass player, because the bass player didn't have an amplifier yet, and it was acoustic stand-up bass fiddle. And the drummer used to play the bass drum to go along with that, and it's played with a foot pedal. And inside, if you can see on the thing, there's a pillow in there. And the reason why there's a pillow in there is just so the drum doesn't ring as much.
Oh, wait.
That's okay. So the bass drum was used to go along with the bass player, and especially in jazz, what they used to play it really light and soft and give bass to the music. And the technique is actually called feathering, and it sounds like this. And they just play that same pattern over and over again. And that's the way they used to first do it with jazz. Later on, the bass drum changed and it became used more like rock, and it still fills out the bass sound. And if you use it as a rock beat, it's usually in the beginning and the middle of the beat, and then it would be used to sound like this. Okay, so that's the first thing that they did. Yep. Okay, so next is the snare drum. That's this drum. And these are exactly like the drums that are in the back of the band room. Don't turn around. I didn't tell you to look at the drums in the back of the band room. Pay attention. Even though I'm not there, I can still yell at you. Tom, you're probably talking right now. Be quiet. Actually, McGarry, you're probably talking right now. Cody, your mouth is obviously going. Quit holding hands with Tiffany over there, too, by the way. Katie, I'll be impatient. Whatever, Mr. Marquez. Okay, I'm back. So, snare drum, right in the middle of the band room, right in the middle of the drum set. It's called the snare drum because there's wire across the bottom. It makes it sound like snare. Across the bottom there has wire. This is the drum. It's on a drum set. You can play rolls and stuff on that I showed you before in class. That. And also, the snare drum is pretty much basically, it's used in all the stuff, but it's the backbeat in the rock songs that you guys listen to. It's what comes on beat 2 and 4 of the measure, and when it really cracks, it sounds like this. Snare drum is used for mainly. There's also a bunch of other stuff you can do with it, and if you take the snares off by throwing the lever, and I showed you this in class, it becomes a regular sounding drum. And when it's used like that, it can be used in beats that are like Latin or Spanish beats, that just sound like this. The other thing that's really cool about the snare drum is that all the heads on all my drums are coated, and that's so that you can play with things other than sticks, which would be what I was showing you at the beginning of the video, these wire brushes.
Ooh, cool brushes.
Cool brushes. Well, you can see it picking up. Scratch. But used for the drums mostly. Mostly used in jazz, but can be used in anything. And when you play jazz with brushes, usually it's for something slow, and what you do is you swish in a figure eight back and forth, and it gets a really cool sound. Okay, it also can be used to play jazz fast if you go. But it can be used, you can use brushes on anything on the drum set, but most people use them on the snare, and there's tons of brush tricks, and if I was better at brushes, I could show you, but I'm not, so I won't. So, use brushes, sticks, snare drum. Okay, cut for a second. Try the drum set now. I guess the other good thing about me not being in class is that you can make fun of me, and I'm not there to hear it. But you wouldn't make fun of me because I'll be back tomorrow. I'll see you all. What I'm going to talk about next is this part of the drum set over here. And this part of the drum set's cool, and it's also the part that everyone goes up to in the drummer goes, hey, you. And they make fun of it, but it's not actually a part to be made fun of. It's a very important part of the drum set. And this part is called the hi-hat cymbals, or just the hi-hat. And the reason why it's called that is because when this started out, these two cymbals up here were really close to the floor, and it used to be called a lowboy or a sock cymbal because it was near your foot. And it was basically, it was the first cymbals ever used on the drum set. All these other cymbals didn't exist yet, and people just played on these. And they played jazz on them by opening and closing them with the foot pedal. Okay, once they made it high enough so you could play it with your hand. So if you open and close them to play jazz, it would sound like... back and forth over and over again, and people did that as part of their beats. You can play it closed. Hi-hat is played closed a lot in rock, like this. Or it can be played kind of open. If you're a moron, like Lars Ulrich of Metallica, he plays them open like this. It sounds really bad as far as I'm concerned, but it doesn't have to. You can also just play it with your foot if you're playing over on another cymbal. And by opening and shutting them, it gives you another sound that the drummers call a splash. Okay? And opening and closing them is how disco became popular. And I'll show you all how difficult the disco beat is because it can be played with one hand. One-handed drumming in the 70s. Okay, that's another reason why the 70s was a worthless, bad decade. But that's another story altogether. So you have the hi-hat, you have the bass drum, and you have the snare drum. That's pretty much how drum sets stayed for a long time. After that, they started to add these other drums that you see around here. If you want to get these other ones. You're not saying much, Miss Howdy. Say something.
You're all that.
Yeah, I am. And a bag of sales show. So, these three drums are called the tom-toms. And the one that's over here, next to the snare, is usually called the floor tom because it usually rests on the floor. I have mine attached to the cymbal.
Why?
Why? Because it's smaller. Usually the drums can be bigger, but I like a smaller one because it sounds kind of cool. Nice low sound. It sounds neat.
No, but why do you have yours attached to the cymbal?
Because it's easier and because it's one less thing that someone else has to move. I say someone else because I'm not lifting these drums. So it's attached to the cymbal. It makes it easier to move around and carry. But the tom-toms pretty much have just regular drum sound. And I have mine tuned to Mary Had a Little Lamb. Kind of tuned to Mary Had a Little Lamb.
So, Mr. Murphy used to tune drums like you have to tune
Sure.
any other instrument?
That's an excellent question, Miss. You tune drums.
I didn't know that. That was the setup.
No, that was, yeah, it wasn't set. You tune drums with this. This is called a Drumkit. And what you do...
Wait, let me get started. Drum key. There it is. Oh.
Sorry
What's
about
that dribble?
Drumkit, what you do is the drums have these little things coming out of the sides, all around the corners, and not the corners, yeah, it's round, more on, there's no corners. So all around the sides, these things are called lugs. And what you do to tune the drum is you put the drum key on the lug, and you just tighten it a little. If you want to go to the right, it's tighter, and the left is looser. And you go around, and you're tightening the head on the drum, and it slightly alters the sound. Not a lot, unless you crank them or whatever. But sometimes these heads can break if you're a moron and you play too hard, like the rock stars. Or when they just get old, they get worn out, and you can break them with a stick. When you break a head, you gotta take the drum key and you take the head all the way off, and you change it back all the way off. So you can tune your drums to whatever you want. Mine just happened to be tuned this way, and I didn't even realize it until right now when I was playing. And the longer they sit around, the more out of tune they get, but you can just keep adjusting it. So these toms are used for different purposes, but they're used especially in rock if you play, or in jazz if you play a fill. And a fill is used for the end of a musical phrase that sets up like the end of something to build up the tension in the music. It usually comes every 4 measures. And an example would be...
Wait, what is that? I didn't follow that. Fill is what?
A fill is something a drummer plays, like if you're playing in the middle of a beat and then all of a sudden you go... then that would be a fill. A little extra thing that you throw in to add tension to the music. And fills aren't just randomly thrown in. Well, you can do that, but it sounds bad. It's better if it comes when the music is building or at the end of 4 measures. Hi, Miss Huggy.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? This is how I look at night after I change my clothes. Leggings. Little technical difficulties.
That's all right, and we got a little shot of Miss Huggy, and this is badly edited, and we'll find out what it looks like. So, fills usually at the end of like 4 measures of music, and it would be sounding like this. So, in the middle, and you can do anything you want. You can play them any direction, any different way, and it will still sound cool. So you have that. So now you have tom-toms, snare drums, bass drums, and hi-hats. So you notice then, and you notice when you have to play drums, you have to use all 4 of your limbs, and that's the hardest thing to do, is to get all the coordinate play, all of your limbs like that. So the last thing that the drums added is this over here. And, actually, I'm sorry. This is a crash cymbal, and the reason why it's called a crash cymbal is because you crash on it. Or you can play it like a roll, but you don't play on it for long periods of time. You just usually hit it once, here again at the end of a beat, like if you go. Okay, crash cymbal. Now, somebody took a crash cymbal like this, and by the way, when you play a crash cymbal, usually you play the bass drum under it, because it sounds less lame. It sounds more lame if you go. But a lot less lame if you go. It's going to add crashes on the top, the bass drums on the bottom. Somebody took this crash cymbal and decided to make it bigger and make it so that you could play on it for long periods of time and it wouldn't sound bad. And when you have a bigger cymbal, that's called a ride cymbal because you can play on it for a while. Ride cymbal is the main thing in jazz drumming, and if you listen to any jazz at all, the ride cymbal is what you hear the most. And that pattern sounds like this. Play the ride cymbal anywhere you want, but the best place to stay is right in the middle. So that way, if you need to go to the tom-tom, you don't have far to reach. If you're up over here somewhere, it doesn't sound as good. And the closer you get to the edge, the more it rattles and it sounds bad. Okay, it sounds better if you're in the middle. Okay, so mostly in jazz, and also the middle part of the ride cymbal is used a lot too. This is called the bell. And you can play it with side stick. And not so much in jazz, but you've all heard this in the songs that you listen to, especially in the guitar solo. The drummer might do something like this. Okay, the other way that the bell is commonly used is in the Spanish or the Latin music, and they might use the bell if they're playing Matt Cody and Tiffany Carter's favorite dance, which would be the cha-cha. And I know they like to do that. And I have to remember how this beat goes. Yeah, it goes like this. So that would be the cha-cha. And Tiffany, don't yell at me. Sorry, I'm making fun of you, but I just can't help it. So that's what the ride cymbal is. Now, so we've talked about all parts of the drum set. And I've kind of played for you a little bit of each style, rock, jazz, and Latin, basically. And then what you can do is you can expand on those styles and cut for a second. We're back from the random rock moment. Brought to you by chips or something. Oh, whoa.
That was so not funny.
I'm not funny. I'm not funny at all. I'm as boring as Mr. Gallery. All right, now I'm gonna show you. Let me tell you why I just film my feet. And some of you guys actually thought it might be hard for me to play because of the way I am with my feet, but it's totally not. I play with my toes up on the pedal, which there's two ways. You can play with your heel down like this, or your toe down like that. And I'll show you the basic foot pattern for Latin music, which goes like this. And what you can do is when you put your hands over that, it makes kind of a cool beat, and you can play it at all different speeds. Isn't that nice? Kind of like that. Now,
Were you just hitting the rim of that drum over there with your right hand?
yes, the snare drum. This very good question. The stick across the rim in music is called the clave.
The clave?
Yeah, kind
Spell
of like
that.
C-L-A-V-E, accent grave on the E, which those of you taking French know what that is. Those of you that aren't, too bad. So, you play the stick across the rim, it gives you a different sound, and this sound is mostly used in Latin. Or it can also be used in jazz. A lot of times they do that if they're playing jazz like this. So they do that too. Now, what I kind of want to talk about for a second is how I play stuff like this together. And when I was in college, I had this really, really weird professor. He wasn't too weird, but he was kind of a fruit loop. And his name is Fred Buddha, and I think I did tell you guys about him. He's the drummer of the Boston Pops, and he's very, very good, and he's a strange man. I walked into my lesson late one day, and I said, Fred, I'm really sorry, I was at the office in the music room. And he said, all right, man, sit down and play that. And I said, what do you mean, play what? He said, sit down and play what you just said. Fred, I'm really sorry, I'm late, I was at the office. So I sat down and I went like this.
Do you want to talk with that so that they can understand?
Yes, kind of sounds like nothing, but I played, Fred, I'm really sorry I'm late, I was at the office. Yo. No, I didn't say yo, but I threw that in for effect because I know you guys love that. Yo. Now, he was trying to get me to think along the lines that anything that you say, you can play on the drum set. Anything that you say, like what I'm saying to you right now, I could play on the drum set. And I started to think about that, and it took me a while, and I'm not a master pro at it, but it helps to be able to make up patterns and not run out of ideas when you make sentences up. Especially in jazz, like if I was to say, my name is Mr. Sax, I could play that on a snare drum by going, my name is Mr. Sax, my name is Mr. Sax. Now it sounds silly until you go like this. I'll add the rest of the beat, but I'll play my name is Mr. Sax on the snare drum, and I sound like this. My teacher tried to teach me to do was to split it up and say, all right, now play some of the notes with your snare drum and some of the notes with your bass drum. Okay, and you need coordination to do this. You can't just sit down and do it. But after a while, when you don't have to think about what your legs or hands are doing, you can do that, and you might split it up like this. Okay, and a couple times I added extra notes because you don't have to just pick on that idea, you can add stuff in and you can play. So a lot of times, especially when you listen to jazz, and I'll do this with rock too, but when you listen to jazz, your hands and your feet can have a conversation with each other, and they can go back and forth, kind of like this. Also, in the middle, I was adding the hi-hat to the conversation too, because you can just use all your limbs. You can talk back and forth like that for as long as you want to play.
What do you mean talk back and forth?
When I mean talk, it'll be like the snare drum is one voice, and the bass drum's another voice, and the hi-hat's another voice, and they're having a conversation just like you guys do at lunch or in class or wherever. And I don't mean conversation like making sentences, but the snare drum might have a thought, and the bass drum might have a thought, and the hi-hat might answer it. And they get all mixed up and together, and you can make phrases and musical statements like that. This took me a long time to understand what that means, and probably some of you guys don't understand it, but at least hopefully maybe like that you could hear it. And you can do it in rock too, but since rock is straighter, it's not so much swing like jazz like we talked about, it's a little bit harder, but you can still do it with the snare and the bass drum if you did something like this. Like that, and basically your hands kind of just talk to each other, and you can make stuff up, and you never run out of ideas because you always have something to say, even if it's something like Mr. Sax talking about the drums. He plays drums, by the way, plays them very well. The next time he comes in, or heaven forbid he's standing here watching this tape right now with you guys, and I'm going to get fired, tell him to sit down right now at the drums and play some for you, if he can. So,
if he cannot, can he?
No, he doesn't have a clue. So rock still. Okay, cut for a second, please. So what you're looking at now is hello. What you're looking at now, understand, is drum music, and drum music is written. It's kind of hard, and it's difficult to understand if you don't know what you're doing. The piece I picked is "Stairway to Heaven" because I just played it for you guys, and you all know it. But if you look, this bar in the middle is all a rest, and this vocal cue up here says, "In the forest will echo with laughter." That's telling you that
in the what?
And the forest will echo with laughter. That's telling you that the drums are coming in soon if you're listening to the song, because they come in right after that verse.
Oh, that's a cue.
That's a cue. Very good. Okay. 4/4 obviously means what? Raise your hands. Right. 4 beats in a measure, and a quarter note gets 1 beat. Very good. I'm so glad you all remembered that. Whatever. You have music on all different lines, okay? And skipping this first thing, because I'll explain that in a second. These little X's on the top, HH stands for hi-hat, so that's this. Okay? So that's what it is. CR stands for crash, which is the symbol, which I'll show you.
CR, they can't really see the letters, I don't think. But
Okay.
CR is the first letter.
CR is the first thing, and it stands for crash, and they want you to play a crash.
Play the crash symbol.
Okay.
That's the one that you play the bass note under.
Yep.
So it doesn't sound lame.
So it doesn't sound lame.
All
Exactly.
right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. A little review from Miss Howdy, everyone's favorite English teacher.
Yeah.
So, you have the hi-hat, and then in the middle here, on this middle line, is where the snare drum goes, and it's on the C space because since only one note comes out of the drum, it's not like a trumpet. You can't
It's on the what?
play
The C
many
space?
notes. They know what that means.
I don't know what that means.
You need some musical help. I think it's time for me to help you.
I played the piano for 6 years and
Yeah.
I didn't learn anything.
I guess not. The spaces spell F-A-C-E from the bottom up, and you guys all know that because
Oh, yeah, I
space
know
rhymes with space. And E-G-B-D-F are the lines because Egbitus rhymes with lines. We learn that in every class.
Egbitus?
Sure.
Rhymes with
Yes,
lines?
it does.
No,
Okay.
it's every good boy does fine.
That's lame. It's easier to just say Egbitus, but now we're arguing, and this is the video for the children, so let's move on. Okay. So you have the snare drum on the C space, which is where it always is. That's why when you guys did your rhythms and we did our compositions, I had you write on, if you were using staff paper, I had you write on the third line. On the bottom is the bass drum, okay? So what the drummer has to do is he's got to read all of those lines at the same time, all right, as his eyes move across the music, all right, his or her eyes, excuse me. This thing over here in the middle is all the tom-toms, okay? It goes from snare to high to middle to low. So this beat, just the first line and a little more, would sound like this. If you played it, you would rest and then you would go. Etc. Now, you looking at that have no idea if I just played what's on the page or if I just made it up. But if you know the song Stairway to Heaven, and you all do because we listen to it, I played exactly what was on there. The drum music looks different than other music because, especially the drum set, is on a bunch of different lines. So now you're probably thoroughly bored and you're not, you don't want to watch this anymore. So I'm going to finish up, but I want to tell you one more cool thing about rhythms. And you can all try this at your seats if you want to because this is kind of neat and you won't be able to do it and I'll laugh at you. But one thing I learned in college that I thought was really cool, and we haven't done this much even in band, so anybody that's watching this that plays in band, we haven't talked about this because it's really hard. The last thing I'm going to show you is called polyrhythms. And poly means what?
More than one.
Poly means more than one. Very good.
That's why polygamy means more than one wife.
Right. And when I grow up and get married, I'm going to practice polygamy. I'm going to marry 20 women. Because I can. And anyway.
Wait. Do it again.
Motion, this video is inappropriate for children. Stuff about turning the age of contract. Did you guys strike if I got fired? Would you stand outside of school and wish till I came back? No, you probably would. You wouldn't care. But you might have Mr. Bucket again. Or even worse, you might have Mr. Kelly. Real hair. I have real hair. He doesn't. Alright, so moving on. Polyrhythm. More than one rhythm. That means more than one rhythm at the same time. And not just on the beats I was playing, but seriously more than one rhythm. For instance, the most common polyrhythm is called 6 against 4, and what you do is with one hand, I'll play 4 beats, and the other hand at the same time, I'll play 6. And I'll show you what it is separate, then I'll put it together. If you play 4 with I'll play 4 with my left hand, I would just play 4. Okay? And then if I play 6 with my right hand, it would sound like this. 4 over here, 6 over here. Now you're going, okay, but when I put it together, it sounds really cool. I'll start playing 4 over here, and then I'll play 6 on top of it. You can hear how it sounds. You can switch back and forth. You can count to 4 if you're listening to the song, or you can count to 6, and it fits.
Let's do it. How about a last? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
Now, that's cool, and it's even cooler when you work it into a beat, because you can play it with your foot against your hand, too. You can play 4 over here. And 6. And if you work it in, especially again in jazz, it sounds really cool if you put it in the middle of the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it sounds pretty neat.
Didn't Sting do that a lot?
Do what?
Did Sting?
Yeah, Sting plays with polyrhythms a lot, and there's a lot of musicians that do. Okay, and in rock sometimes you hear it, especially you hear it in guitar solos and guitar rhythms. Lots of bands do it, although sometimes I don't think they know exactly what they're doing. But that's called polyrhythms, when you have more than one rhythm going on at the same time. The other one that's kind of cool that I'll show you quickly is 4 against 3. And it's the same idea. You play 3, you play 4. And together, this one's easy, and I'll show you why in a second. But together, it sounds like this. rhythm on both drums, if you say it, we used to learn in psychology by saying pass the stinking butter. You can say pass the stinking butter, and if I play it, I want you to say it to yourself, and you'll notice that it fits exactly. Ready? One, ready, go. Those pauses are really cool to do, like in the middle if you're playing, because it kind of throws people off, like they don't know exactly what you're doing.
Like, why don't you demonstrate?
If I did something like this, and I added in not just those, but I did 4 and 3, and also I added in 8 notes in between, it would be like this. I'll keep that foot going, so you know where the time is. Forced it out. I had to figure it out. It sounds like 2 separate beats on top of each other. And if I keep the bass drum going, and then I do 8 notes, I'm ready. Sound really cool because it kind of messes you up and you go, what's going on? And when drummers do that, it sounds cool if they know what they're doing. So that's pretty much what I wanted to do, and I don't know. I hope that this wasn't completely wicked boring to you. And you're probably going, play some song I know. Why doesn't you play some song I know? And I don't know what's popular that I could play. I could play one of those cheesy Hampton Beach groups. Like disco, or I could try and play that cool song by the Fugees, even though it's not by the Fugees, because they kind of go. Slow.
What song was that?
I don't know. Is the next song you softly?
Oh yeah. That's who sang that originally?
Roberta Flack.
Roberta Flack.
Wrote it about American Pie by John McClane.
Right.
She did. And I don't know, there's plenty of other things, and there's tons of beats, and there's all kinds of stuff, and I guess if you have questions I can answer when I'm standing in front of you, I'll answer them then. But pretty much, this is what I wanted to show you, so that's the end, and I hope you were good for the substitute, because if you weren't, I'll destroy you, and I hope that the substitute wasn't too bored watching this video 3 times, but by now the substitute's probably a better drummer than I am, whoever you are, Mr. or Mrs. Substitute. And I hope you guys were good, and have a good weekend, and I'll see you later. See ya!